Welcome back to Cynthia Untamed. This is your youthful and educational channel where we have conversations with and about children and youth in Africa. I hope that my videos continue to inspire you, and make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. There's a video I did earlier in the year where I was talking about how you can join a youth advisory board. If you've missed it, please check it out either in the link in the description bar below or in the link above here, somewhere here, or at the end of this video you'll be able to see a suggested video, so make sure you check it out. And in that video I was basically explaining how you can join a youth advisory board. Make sure you catch up on it, but just to let you know that a youth advisory board is basically a platform that enables you as a young person to be able to speak about the issues that you care about to the organizations that do the things that you care about. So I remember I talked about me being part of Generation Unlimited, that is very focused on equipping young people between 10 and 24 years with the skills they need to thrive in life, education opportunities, employment opportunities, and civic engagement opportunities. So I am in the Young People's Action Team, advising the Global Board and the Office of the President in Kenya on youth issues, and not youth who are much older, but I would say youth who are children, so 10 to 24, and popularly known as the Young People's Agenda. The other youth advisory board I am in is the Global Partnership for Education. I am a youth leader there because I am very passionate about education. If you've been watching a lot of my videos, you know that I am all about education. So today I'm going to tell you about the highlights of the Global Partnership for Education Global Education Summit. So this happened on the 28th and the 29th of July 2021. Basically, as I speak, it was a week ago, and I just want to share the highlights of that day. But rather, let me start from the highlights of the year. I am telling you guys, it's been quite an engaging last 7 months, which is why you really need to watch that video on why you should be part of a youth advisory board and how you can be part of a youth advisory board. So how I got to the Global Partnership for Education, that actually is focused on equipping children with education opportunities across the world, working with the governments to ensure that children access opportunities, is that I am a member of Generation Unlimited Youth Advisory Board. So they recommended me to the Global Partnership for Education, and the Global Partnership for Education launched a campaign last year called Raise Your Hand. Basically, you know, the way you are in school, you are in class and you want to answer a question, you raise your hand in class. So they started a campaign somewhere in October where they filmed this girl who raised her hand. I think I should share that video, or it should also run on the screen so that you can see the girl I'm talking about. She raised her hand and it was all this inspirational thing, and basically calling upon governments to finance education, calling upon foundations, private foundations. There are guys with lots of money in this world who run private foundations, calling upon United Nations, governments to finance education. So that's basically the theme. And the most interesting bit about this campaign is that it was being co-hosted by the government of the United Kingdom, that's led by Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and the government of Kenya, that is led by President Uhuru Kenyatta. And so to lead up to the Global Education Summit, if you have worked in public advocacy campaigns, you know that you need to build up to the actual day. You don't just wake up and do a summit, you build up to the day so that you're also talking about those key messages. So what we did is in January, February there, we did a selection workshop. I took you through that already, so make sure you watch that video. And then after that, they started opening up opportunities for we as young people to talk about education. And why? Because we are advocates and champions in our communities, and now they were giving us these platforms. I'm telling you guys, it was so engaging. So I remember in March, we had a meeting with the CEO of the Global Partnership for Education. She is called Alice Albright, and basically it was more of an introductory session talking about what we do as young people, why we are passionate about education, and how the Global Partnership for Education can support young people. So it was a very interesting 1 hour session. And the good thing is that they also got, I think, 2 of us to like do the opening speech of the whole session, and then we went around the table and we talked about it, of course, all on Zoom. The other highlight was having a conversation with the UK Prime Minister Special Envoy for Girls Education. Her name is Helen Grant, and she has roots from Africa. She is half Nigerian and half British. Is it half UK? But yeah, half UK, half half Nigeria. She is a special envoy for girls education, and we had this very interesting conversation with her about why we are passionate about education. Now, when you have meetings like this with the special envoy for girls education, the UK Prime Minister Special Envoy for Girls Education, you don't just go there without any point, so you have to prepare. And the good thing is that when we were going there, we also did a meeting with the Global Partnership for Education, just to also strategize what we are going to talk about. So for me, I talked about skills. I talked about, especially at that time, there were floods happening all over the country, well, in many places of the country, where you could see that some kids had been locked out of school, either because their schools were simply washed away, or because the crocodiles now living in their schools, because their schools are now flooded. We know the issue of climate change around the world, not just in Kenya, and that is really affecting children. So I was able to talk about issues like that. Some of my other colleagues who've had experience with student politics were also able to talk about the influence of student politics on quality education. So that was very, very inspiring. And you know, the highlight of this session is that I think about 2 weeks after we had this conversation with Helen Grant, she did an interview with the New African magazine, which I just heard of, I think like 2 years ago. Yeah, must have been 2 years ago that I think there's a Kenyan, if not, I think it was Gina Dean, who was named like one of the most influential women in Africa, or one of the most influential people in Africa. I'll try and extract that clip that I'm talking about, that I first heard of the New African magazine. I was like, okay, New African magazine. So Helen Grant did an interview with the New African magazine, and she talked about the Global Partnership for Education, Global Education Summit that was coming up in July. This was like in March. And she also talked about the session she had with us, the youth leaders of the GPE, in that session. And she said that I really inspired her with my passion for education. Oh, I actually have a screenshot. I'm telling you guys, it was so inspiring having that mentioned in the New African magazine. Oh, yeah, that was great, having the opportunity to speak to leaders in places of influence, because where else am I going to meet the UK Special Envoy for Girls Education? You really need to be vocal about the issues that you talk about, so that the right people find you and then give you the platforms to speak to the right people, who can then now pass the policies that you need, be it in education, be it in mental health, be it in menstrual hygiene policy, be it in ending female genital mutilation, be it in access to opportunities for people with disabilities, be it in ending hunger, especially for children who are going to school. Basically, whatever cause you are passionate about. Then the other highlight was, we did so many sessions. I was also able to address the Gender and Advisory Council of the G7. The G7. Guys, these are things I just see on CNN. Like when you're watching CNN and the British anchor is like, oh, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has just had a meeting with his G7 counterparts. So these are things you just see in the news, and you never imagine that you can have the opportunity to access those spaces. But I had the opportunity to advise the G7 Gender Advisory Council. So basically, the Gender Advisory Council is within the G7 that is comprised of 7 countries, the UK and Canada being one of them, where they come up with decisions to influence global policy. They also have advisory councils. So one of those advisory councils advises on gender. So I was able to address that specific advisory council on issues of girls' education. So from menstrual hygiene to the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, to female genital mutilation, to early marriage, all those issues that make it difficult for girls to access education. And that was just amazing. And the best part of addressing the G7 Gender Advisory Council is that my recommendations were taken, and they were also included in the final report that was published during the main G7 summit. So that was great. If you watch news, if you watch global affairs, you've seen the G7 summit happen. Prime Minister Boris Johnson was there. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was there. Prime Minister, basically like all the world leaders were there in that summit. So that was really amazing engagement. It was a really good platform, and I'm really happy I was able to do that. Then the other thing we were able to do with the other youth leaders is that we were able to do a video, and not just a video, but basically there was a letter that was done to different leaders across the world. So there was one that was done to Anna Solberg. Anna Solberg is the head of state for, I am forgetting the country. I will put it here. The country has just disappeared from my head. So there's Anna Solberg, there's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, there's Prime Minister Boris Johnson. We were able to like customize these letters, read them out aloud, and then they were used as part of the public advocacy campaigns. There were so many, I was not even able to do all of them, but I specifically took part in the one that was linked to President Kenyatta's commitment to education. And like I think 12 of us did the video, so each of us like do a segment, and then the segment is put together. Guys, you should watch it. I think I should also insert it here so that you are able to watch it. Yeah.
Dear leaders, in times of crisis, leaders step up. So we call on you to heed on President Kenyatta's call
and to make bold and ambitious commitments to prioritize, protect, and increase domestic financing for education to pre-COVID-19 levels, and towards the 20% global benchmark, and to make policy commitments that ensure no child is left behind.
I make this commitment at GP's Global Education Summit on 28 and 29 July.
We remind you of 5 reasons why education should be a priority investment.
Access to safe and inclusive education for all girls and marginalized genders increases gender equality.
A gender-responsive curriculum and trained teachers of all gender prepare us for the realities of our world.
Education has become vital in every aspect, but we are lacking access to these digital tools. Digital skills are critical for education and the future job market.
Without your funding, inequalities remain part of our daily lives. We want to feel and see structural and sustained change.
Education is a human right. We should all have access to education, no matter our class, gender identity, sexuality, ability, and whether we live in conflict-affected or rural areas.
Fund education. Wekeza pesa kwenye sekta ya elimu.
A ƙara jari a harkar ilimi yana da muhimmanci.
Isaimari mojitizo zetu.
Ètò ìdáwọ́jọ fún ẹ̀kọ́ kíkọ́.
Put money for academic.
Financia la educación.
Put kopo kwa education.
Taretu enkisoma.
Okay, so I hope you've been inspired by that clip. Basically, that was our call to action. Fund education. Fund education. Wekeza pesa kwenye sekta ya elimu. And yeah, that was great. Then the other thing we were able to do, or rather I was really able to do was do video sessions leading up to the summit. So the Nordic countries that are comprised of a couple of countries which I have forgotten, but the Nordic countries usually have a festival during summer. It's called Nordic Midsummer Festival. So basically the Global Partnership of Education kind of jumped into this festival to also advocate for education, and especially for the Nordic countries to fund education. So what we did is they asked me if I could host or kind of moderate the festival. So basically what they did, because we are not able to meet physically because of the pandemic, they got videos from different world leaders. So we had Winnie Byanyima from UNAIDS, we had Peter Tabichi, the Global Teacher Prize winner from Kenya, we had so many people. We had the head of Oxfam, Gabriela Boucher. We had Jutta Upilainen, who is the head of international partnerships at the European Union. We had really so many people, so many people. And the host of the festival was the former Prime Minister of Australia, Julia Gillard, who also happens to be the chair of the Global Partnership for Education. So that was amazing. And what basically we did is I co-moderated with a girl called Martina from Norway, and they got a producer and a TV station to write a script for everyone who was doing the video and for the moderators as well. And then they linked me up with crew, like basically a film crew here in Kenya. So sound, video, lights, all the things, teleprompter, basically like the whole studio. They linked me up with them here in Kenya, and we got a venue. I had suggested either Arboretum or Karura Forest, but eventually I just said let's go to Karura Forest, because Karura Forest is just more beautiful, just has better scenery. So basically we went there, and I'd really like also to thank Dalbag, because behind the scenes here in Kenya, Dalbag was coordinating all those sessions. If you've never heard of Dalbag, it's a global consulting company that does global consulting organization that helps organizations and governments to strategize in policy and basically a couple of other things, but just check out Dalbag. So we went to Karura, and I managed to learn how to read a teleprompter. Guys, I have never read a teleprompter. These are things I just see on TV, the things I just hear of, but basically I learned this skill. When I did it the first time, it was very difficult, because I was like, how do you tone yourself? And then also there's also a way you've been taught to say things. The way in high school when you recite a poem, you say, my name is CynthiaUNTAMED, ready to present. They used to say it like that. So when you're reading a teleprompter, it is very different. And the best part is that they didn't want me to read like a news anchor, because also when you're reading as a news anchor, there's a way you say, Education CS George Magoha today said this and that and that. They just wanted it to be me, but it also had to sound natural. So the crew really helped me to read those lines. I did them a couple of times, and basically I was able to put it together. And then at the end of the day, the TV station was able to edit the whole festival. I'm going to insert a couple of highlights here, and then if you want to watch the full Nordic Midsummer Festival, you can also find the link in the description bar below. So there you go. Now we're going to hear from Gabriela Boucher, Executive Director of Oxfam International, about the impact of the COVID pandemic on education around the world and, in particular, the Global South. Dear Gabriela, Oxfam has coined this pandemic the inequality virus. Why is that, and what has it meant for education? Thank you very much, Winnie. Now let us hear directly from girls in Kenya whose schools have been disrupted in the last year due to COVID or because of climate events. Now, aside from that, we also did another video that would now be played during the main summit, the Global Education Summit, that was happening on July 28th and 29th. And basically it was the same process. The crew from the UK linked me to a crew here in Nairobi with the support of Dalberg. We went to Karura Forest and then I did a video. And this time it was much simpler to read the teleprompter. In fact, for many of the lines, I just did take 1, take 2, take 1, take 2, take 3. And like the first time where I did like take 1 to take 6. So I am a pro at reading teleprompters now. Oh, that's a new skill I have gained. So I was there with my co-youth leader. Her name is Angel Mbuthia. She was a student leader while I was at the university, and she continues to serve young people in Kenya through the National Youth Council, and she's also very passionate about education. So basically we had different sessions. So mine was called Education's Reset. Basically Education's Reset is about how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected children and how we can utilize technology to enable children to continue accessing education, especially in these difficult times. So that's why it was called Education's Reset. Like the way we are used to going to school and doing school in a certain type of way. You're in a classroom, you barely use computers maybe until you get to Form 1, unless you're in a private school. So things are changing, and that means that governments need to invest in technology so that children can continue to access education. So that's why it was called Education's Reset. It went so well. It was amazing. One of the people who was in that session that I did, the Education's Reset, is Peter Tabichi was there. The CS for ICT, Joe Musheru, was there. We had the Chief of Education for UNICEF, Robert Jenkins. We had we had so many people. I'm just forgetting the names because I can't say them from the top of my head, but here are some of the highlights from Education's Reset. Hello and welcome to the GPE London Live Summit. I'm Cynthia, coming to you from Kenya, and this is Education's Reset, Learning from COVID. GPE's replenishment comes at a crucial moment in time. High rates of poverty and inequality have been made even worse by COVID-19, while closures caused by the pandemic have left hundreds of millions of children out of school. Governments urgently need support to deliver high-quality education to every single girl and boy. In this segment, we want to look in greater detail at the impact COVID-19 has had on education. We also want to examine the latest thinking about cognitive development and see what implications this has for transforming education systems. Finally, we'll be taking a look at a number of areas of transformation at both individual and system level that offer feasible and effective ways of helping the most vulnerable children. We start by hearing from Mubuso Zamchia of the Luminous Fund on the importance of seizing this unique opportunity for change. Okay, I hope that you have enjoyed. If you want to see the full session for Education's Reset that was played at the Global Education Summit, July 28th to 29th, check out the link in the description bar below and just get a feel of the whole conversations. There were various thematic stages. There was Education's Reset, which I was doing. Angel Mbuthia was doing the ripple effect. There was another one on gender, and I'm forgetting the other theme. So it was really nice to do that. And the best part is that when you go, you will find me there doing the intro to the portal that was like doing the whole summit, where I'm saying, hello, my name is Cynthia, welcome to the Global Education Summit. In fact, here's the video. Hello and welcome to the Global Education Summit, financing GPE 2021 to 2025. We hope you have an exciting and informative time with us today. This is a key moment for the global community to come together and support quality education for all children. All right, I hope you are learning a lot, and you're learning from my experience running a public advocacy campaign on something that you are passionate about, because I am passionate about education for all children, a champion for every child. Basically, I believe in all that. Now, I was actually supposed to go to London for the Global Education Summit, but the new world is that there is COVID-19 that tends to disrupt everything. So basically, at the end of it all, everything just went virtual, and I already had a visa. That's the most interesting part of this whole story, is that I already had a visa to the UK. But as life had it, things just changed, and I didn't go to the UK. But I was still able to open the Global Education Summit. In fact, we are 4 youth leaders in the GPE here in Kenya. The 4 of us were engaged in one way or another during the summit. So aside from those videos I'm talking about that were played during the summit, like Education Reset, Angel Mbodia was able to do an interview that was published by the British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC. Please check it out, Angel Mbuthia, and she was just talking about education, where she's passionate about it, the issues of gender and education. And if you read it very well, you will see that it's in the same article with the Malala Yousafzai. Then there are now 3 of us who spoke at the summit. So there's Anthony Were. He is a disability inclusion teacher, human inclusion from Kakuma. He was able to do a session on disability inclusion and education. And then there is Selina Nkoile, who is also passionate about education. She is from Narok and very passionate about ensuring that every child, and especially every girl, is able to access education and escapes female genital mutilation and escapes early marriage, because those are challenges that she has personally faced. That panel was awesome. She shared a platform with Malala Yousafzai and Josephine Kamara. Guys, you should check it out. That was at the beginning, and it was moderated by the former Prime Minister of Australia, Julia Gillard. And then that was the first half. And then in the second half, they brought in presidents from across Africa. I think there were like 5 presidents, but the president of Kenya was not in that panel. So it was basically presidents from other countries. They were put in that panel, and they basically spoke about education on that panel. As for me, I opened the summit. My favorite part is just doing all this nice fun things. So I opened the Global Education Summit. Oh guys, it was just such a thrilling moment for me. It was just 4 minutes on screen. Oh no, 2 minutes on screen. But guys, it's like 2 minutes for the rest of your life. It's like, this is the impression you make to these people you cannot see for the rest of your life. And oh guys, it was so amazing. I didn't even know I was going to open the summit, but after our trip to London was cancelled, GPE reached out to me, asked if I was available on the 29th to open the Global Education Summit. Of course, I wasn't going to say no. Of course, I will still say yes, even if I wanted to be in London, but I would still say yes, because I believe that when you are championing for a cause, it's not just the highlights, it's not just about the big things, it's also about the small moments. And you also have to remember that you are on that platform not for you as Cynthia, but you are on that platform because you are a champion for people who cannot access that platform to speak for themselves. So for me, it's a responsibility. It's not just me being there and enjoying the life, but it's a responsibility that I have, not just for the children of Kenya, but for the children of Africa, so that they can access educational opportunities like I have. So they sent me a script. They asked me to look at it. If I had any changes, I could correct it. And then I did change it a bit, but then it wasn't like how do I say it? It wasn't fitting with the theme of the summit, sort of. And then we had to edit it again. And then on the day of rehearsals, was on a Tuesday, and the main summit where I was going to open was on a Thursday. When we did the rehearsals, because I was co-opening with a girl called Shikemi She's called Shikemi. She lives in the UK, but she's originally from Nigeria, studies at Kent Law School. I was co-opening with her. And so when we did the rehearsals on the stage, because it was her speaking from the UK, then me joining in, and then once the two of us spoke, it would then be the CEO of Dalberg, Edwin Masharia, and another moderator called Natalie Kaplinski. They were the ones now going to come in now after we opened the summit. Once we did the rehearsal on the computer, somehow the script did not feel natural to me. It felt very technical. After I had done, when I had already said, yes, we'll use this one, I was like, okay. But when we did the rehearsal and then blending it in with Shikemi and listening to Edwin Masharia and Natalie Kaplinski coming in after us, I was like, no, does not sound very natural. So after that rehearsal, I was like, I am changing this script. I am changing it. I am rewriting it. I should do a video on writing a script for opening a summit, because this is also another skill I learned. But what I did, I basically just took my phone, I recorded the original script. I recorded it in the same pace I would have done it if I had been reading it or speaking it offhand, and I was able to get it at about 1 minute and 40 seconds to 2 minutes. So it's like, when I edit this speech, what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit and ensure that when I speak, it also meets the same timeline of 1 minute and 40 seconds. And basically that is exactly what I did. So I went online, I started listening to YouTube videos about how to give effective opening statements to a summit like this, because this was going to be the biggest summit ever in my life so far that I was ever opening. So the issue of telling a story, telling a narrative was very key. So it's like, okay, the first few paragraphs, I'm just going to talk about my story, how my father taught me how to read, how my mother would take me to the library and ensure that I had access to books and read all day so that I could be a better reader, and how my teacher would ask me to teach my classmates how to read. And it's not like she shouldered the responsibility on me, but as children read, teachers are able to see, oh, that one reads very fast. So she'd be like, okay, show her how to say this word, show her how to say this word, show him how to pronounce this one. And for me, sharing that story is now what now enabled me now to bring the technical angle, the effects of COVID-19 to children, how we can use education to rebuild our economies, and then close it up with, you guys, leaders, take your money out of your pockets, take it out of the banks, take it out of the briefcases, put it in education. Basically, that was the whole format. And now when I said it, I was like, now that sounds like a good opening statement. So doing that rehearsal is very important. And then on the Thursday, Dalberg sent a vehicle. I was picked from my home. I was already dressed up, had my makeup done. I think it's only the lipstick that I didn't do. Basically I was dressed up and I went, and the Maasai jewelry. I just wore my dress and my coat. And then when I got there towards like the opening is when now I wore the jewelry and applied the lipstick. But when I got there, I was so tense. And then you know what happened? It got so cold. It was 14 degrees Celsius in Nairobi. But anyway, I got to the Dalberg office. They gave us breakfast. And then now we had to start doing rehearsals. Oh Lord, I was so tense. I kept going to the bathroom, looking at myself in the mirror, telling myself, Cynthia, you are confident, you are bold, you are smart, you will not stammer, you will do well, you will make Kenya proud. I had to tell myself all these nice things. And then we did a couple of rehearsals. In fact, let me show you some of the behind the scenes that we did there at the Dalberg office.
Cynthia, this is Tom once again. Just keeping you posted on time. We're about to start the event. Like I said, we have a 2-minute pre-recorded piece, and then we'll be coming to you. Can you just say a few words to confirm that I can hear you?
Hi, Sikemi. Hi, everyone.
Wonderful. Terrific. That's lovely, Cynthia. Thank you very much.
All right, yeah, so those are the behind the scenes that that we did. As you can see, there was this whole crew. We had a teleprompter. I had mastered the speech off head, but the great thing is that we had a teleprompter, so there was somebody who was controlling the prompter for me. So the night before, I had just learned, how do you pose, how do you change your emotions when you're talking about how your parents taught you how to read. How do you now change it to sadness without sounding like a bit artificial, and talking about the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. It went so smoothly, everything went well. Oh my goodness, it was amazing. Just watch the full clip over here, and don't mind like the poses, because I took this straight from the internet, so of course when it's streaming it does not come out the way I spoke, but here it is.
Hi Sikemi, hi everyone. I'm Cynthia Nyongesa, a lawyer and GPE youth leader from Nairobi, Kenya. We are so excited to see you all here together, and we hope that the voices of young people will have an impact on the deliberations and decisions that will be made today. As a little girl, my father taught me how to. My mother would take me to the library every Saturday so that I could be exposed to a variety of books. In fact, I was the fastest reader in my class. My teacher would ask me to teach my classmates how to read. That is the opportunity I hope every child can experience. In the face of the COVID pandemic, we risk seeing many children never returning to school, either because of teenage pregnancies or because their parents lost their jobs. We know that investing in education is one of the ways that our countries can recover from the pandemic. That's why I raise my hand for education and for GPE, because it is through education that a child gains the skills they need, whether that is to be a leader, a doctor, a teacher, or a musician, and to build a better, more equal world for everyone. Thank you.
Absolutely wonderful. What powerful, inspiring, and challenging words. Thank you very much indeed to Shikemi here in London and Cynthia in Nairobi.
Yeah, so basically that was the speech. And then once I was done, now this was the part I was not expecting. So Edwin Mashare and Natalie Kaplinsky, often the same, like they came now, started moderating, and then they introduced Alice Albright on stage. And then now the foreign secretaries, the foreign secretary of the UK, Dominic Raab, and Kenya's CS for Foreign Affairs, Rachel Omamo, now came in. So Dominic Raab came first. And then, of course, in his, like when he was starting the speech, he said, I want to thank Shikemi. And then you know what he said? My fellow lawyer, Cynthia. I was like, what? My fellow lawyer? I am the fellow lawyer of a UK Foreign Secretary of State. That got me a bit. I was like, wow, I am making an impression here. And you know, when I was doing the speech, like I couldn't see these people. I was just there with my camera. There, you know, the way news anchors read news, they look into the camera, they cannot see you in your house watching TV. So that was my case. I was looking into the camera, it was being streamed into London. I could not see these people. And he said, my fellow lawyer. And then, of course, he continued with his speech and emphasized on the importance of the voices of young people to fund education. Guys, that was such a blessing. I felt blessed at that moment. And then Rachel Omamo, our CS for Foreign Affairs in Kenya, now came in. And she said, I want to thank Shikemi and Cynthia for talking about the power of education. Then she went on. And then she said, and I want to thank Cynthia for speaking in my hometown in Nairobi. I was like, what? Cynthia from Nairobi? Cynthia from... Here, actually, the two clips where they were speaking. Dominic Raab and Rachel Omamo.
We gathered with heads of states and ministers from over 30 countries, NGOs, other partners, thousands joining around the world. We gathered because we're united in believing in one really important thing, and that is in the power of education as a force for good in the world. We believe in the testimonies we've just heard from Shikemi and my fellow lawyer Cynthia, and millions of young people.
I also want to thank Shikemi and Cynthia, our youth leaders, for representing the youth at the open session of this Global Education Summit. In representing the youth at the opening session of this Global Education Summit. Indeed, the stakes for global education have never been higher, and your statements are timely. They are a reminder that we are here primarily because of you, because of our children, and because of our youth. And I thank Cynthia for speaking to us from my home in Nairobi, Kenya.
The session kept going, different panels across the day. And then we also now got to a session where leaders were coming to commit now the money and coming to say this country has increased by this budget. You can actually catch the full details using the link in my description bar below and see how countries committed to education. Our CS for Education, George Magoha, was also there. Yeah, so that was very important, and that also told me that, you see, when you talk about investing in education, it's not just waiting for the global community from the global world to come and invest in education in Kenya. It's also our own country committing to our own children and saying that in our financial budget this year and that year, between this year and that year, we are committing this amount of money to education, and it has to be a significant amount. And I hope that at some point in this lifetime I will be able to see that percentage rising to 50%, because as of now I believe it must be 26%, and I still feel like we have a long way to go. So maybe someday I will be the CS for education or president and say that now we are getting to 50%. I don't know how possible that is. Economists, please tell me, but I do want to see us investing a lot more in education. Yeah, so that was the whole summit. And then now at the end of the day, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Prime Minister Boris Johnson now came to now open and close the summit. Basically, they opened and closed the summit on the same day. And so they came to talk about the impact of education, our responsibility for education. And of course, President Kenyatta also acknowledged the voices of young people, which have really been key in talking about this whole campaign, Raise Your Hand. And I know I am speaking about what Cynthia did, Cynthia's highlights, but guys, you have not met the other young people. You have not met Angel Mudia, you have not met Anthony Were, you have not met Selena Nkoile, you have not met Josephine Camara, you have not met Fatu, you have not met Diana from Honduras, you've not met our guys from Japan. We have young people across the world passionate about education and asking their governments to invest in education. You have not met those people. So I do hope that you will meet these people somewhere across the world, across the work that you do, and see the kind of work that they do, and a lot more speak about education. Well, I know I have said many things, but it's basically a summary of 7 months of campaigning for education. But why did I feel doing this video is important? It's because I didn't start speaking about education yesterday. I started 5 years ago. Yeah, I actually started 2015. Is that 6 or 5 years ago? 2015, there's a whole story about it if you watch my Dada Sphere talk, how I started volunteering for the Equity Wings to Fly program, how I started volunteering for community-based organizations, how I then started my own blog, and many other things. At some point, we had even reached out to the Law Society of Kenya to donate textbooks to our school. So I did not start this year. I started this a long time ago, And this door just opened because of the work that I have been doing across the years. And when I speak at the Global Partnership for Education, when I was speaking at that moment, I felt it was a responsibility for all the young people who are champions of education in their communities, in Nairobi, in Turkana, in Bungoma, in Kisumu, in Garissa, who are champions of education who do not have that platform, to speak up for education, because they don't have that network or they don't have the resources. But I speak for them because I know those young people. They are people I interact with. They are people I meet on the streets. They are people I go to school with. They are people I know, and I speak up for those people. So I do encourage you to keep up the great work that you are doing, to keep believing in yourself, and to never stop. Just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, and your doors will open. And that door is not just opening for you, it's also opening for the people who depend on you, the children of your country, the young people of your country. Be the leader that you aspire to be. A call to action for you is that if you want to be a youth leader, a champion in your community, make sure you check out the UNICEF Youth Advocacy Guide and learn how you can be a champion for a cause you are passionate about in your community. You can find the UNICEF Youth Advocacy Guide in the link in the description bar below. Bye. Hello and welcome to the Global Education Summit. This is a key moment for the global community to come together and support quality education for all children.
To celebrate and anticipate, Every day we're walking our way to freedom. We're not gonna wait, not gonna wait. So we're not ever wasting no time. Our dreams are valid, and we're not gonna change our minds. We'll find a way.
Change that you